Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere alone in a bitterness. I mean, yeah. Yun! It worked. I thought it wasn't gonna work. Yo, so... Is it working? Is it working? Yun, I can hear now. Looks like it's okay. Now let's see. The thing is, when I stream, I don't do anything else. It's like, you know, sometimes I think to myself, that I'd rather do other stuff than stream, you know. But I like what I do. I like what I do, and I hope you guys also like it. Well, you know what? Even if no one likes it, as long as I'm enjoying myself, I'm gonna keep on doing it. Because I do it for myself. Now let's see. The thing about Sarah, I don't know how to use Sarah.
C6 Bennett regretters rejoice because Kujo Sara has finally arrived after a long wait from her introduction in the Archon quest. In my opinion, Sara is an extremely strong 4-star support that does good damage herself, but more importantly buffs your entire team. She shares a similar role to the only 6-star support Bennett, and while I do not believe she can ever replace him, she doesn't fall too far behind his support capability, which says a lot. That said, I do not think it is fair to only compare Sara to Bennett because she is a different character with a unique kit. She does have some downsides to her kit like any well-balanced character does, but in my opinion the strengths greatly outshine any weaknesses. Unless you simply don't enjoy Sara's playstyle, I think she comes close to a must-build character for a lot of people, especially with the recent difficulty spike in Abyss. In this video, we'll discuss Sara's kit and its nuances, her strengths and weaknesses, optimum playstyles, builds, and teams. My Sara is currently level 80 out of 90 with a level 90 sack bow and level 666 talents. It will take some time to really see Sara's full potential while we all farm the new weekly boss over the following weeks, so do keep that in mind. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Sara's normal and charge attacks are standard for bow users, and she has the same charge attack scaling as Fischl. While I typically do not level this skill on my support units, I did take it to 6 for Sara because she uses charge attacks to apply her attack buff, and the extra damage was worth the investment for me. Even with an ER build, my charge attacks are hitting around 5k. Her elemental skill is the ability that allows her to provide an attack buff to one party member and to battery her team. Much like how Fischl works, Sara's kit is centered around her elemental skill. When you cast this skill, she dashes back and gains Crow Feather cover, which lets her place her Crow Feather down with a charge shot. This will explode shortly after performing a charge shot and will provide an attack buff for 6 seconds to a character standing in the AoE when it explodes. Her first passive talent decreases the charging time on this charge shot by 60%, which is significant as you can see in the clip playing, and with her second passive talent, when the explosion hits an enemy, she will also provide flat energy to the team based on her energy recharge amount. There are some nuances to this skill that are important to understand to make full use of her kit. The first is that casting the skill doesn't actually do anything but allow her to place a crow feather. You have 18 seconds to do this, even though the skill is on a 10-second cooldown, and the cooldown starts when performing the skill and not when placing the crow feather. The second is that her Constellation 2, which automatically places a crow feather when she presses E, changes this skill quite a bit. First, the mini crow feather grants an attack buff and procs her second passive. That said, you still do not generate electro particles. So at Constellation 2, you still want to perform a charge shot most of the time. You will want to wait a few seconds to maximize attack buff uptime and proc her second passive twice, as it is on a 3-second cooldown. And third, if you're running Sackbow at Constellation 2, the Sackbow passive will be applied when the first crow feather explodes. Her Elemental Burst has a very high damage multiplier, and coupling this with her skill, I believe makes her a very well-rounded character. Her burst deals a single large AoE attack, deals several consecutive AoE electro attacks which spread out and have a much lower multiplier, and activates her elemental skill attack buff, and also procs her second passive talent. With a scaling of 737% at talent level 10 for the initial burst of damage, this attack hits very hard and has a good range of casting. If she was Pyro, Hydro, or Cryo, we would definitely be seeing some damage showcases. As far as constellations go, Sara is one of the few 4-stars that functions as a complete character at Constellation 0. That said, we did touch on Sarah's second constellation, and while this isn't necessary to play this character, it is a nice quality of life upgrade. In my opinion, this constellation is useful because it allows you to get an attack buff up in situations that are not conducive to taking time to perform a charge attack. You still need to perform a charge attack to get energy particles, so it doesn't remove this requirement completely, but it does make this character much better, and she feels much less clunky to me at C2. This constellation also helps with the uptime on your attack buff and your battery potential, and is the strongest constellation to get for most players. Her C6, which gives electro characters 60% crit damage, is OP, but this does only work for some select teams with the small number of electro units in the game. Hopefully, we see some more strong electro characters before we move out of Inazuma. Her Constellation 1, which reduces skill cooldown by 1 to 2 seconds, and her Constellation 4, which provides some additional burst damage, are nice, but not game changers in my opinion. I want to quickly address strengths and weaknesses for Kujo Sara, as I'm seeing a lot of mixed reviews on this character, from calling her clunky and a worse Bennett to OP and a must build. These are just my thoughts, so take what I say with a grain of salt. Despite the fact that I make a lot of math-heavy guides, I would not consider myself a meta player, and am much more drawn to characters for aesthetics and playstyle.
Me too.
As far as strengths go, here are my thoughts. She's a universal buffer that can transfer a huge amount of damage to other characters. Bennett is the only other character that transfers flat attack and does not provide an attack percent bonus. This alone makes her valuable. Her supportive and damage buffing capabilities are not locked behind constellations. C6 is pretty insane, but she's also very strong before Constellation 6. This makes her a strong long-term investment support. Her individual burst damage is very high, and the AoE is very large. Like Bennett, her builds are flexible if used only as a buffer, as she just needs high base attack. Her attack buff is not gated by energy, and her battery capabilities are high. At 200% energy recharge and Constellation 2, she provides a flat 2.4 energy to the entire team twice per skill cooldown and once per burst, making her a better battery than Bennett and Fischl in specific comps. At Constellation 0 and 200% energy recharge, Sara will provide 12.6 energy to on-field electro characters and 5.4 energy to off-field non-electro characters every 10 seconds. This increases to 15 and 7.8 at Constellation 2. This actually puts her battery potential at Constellation 2 for on-field electro characters above a perfectly played Fischl below Constellation 6, but under the potential of Fischl at C6. She's still as good of, or a better battery than C6 Fischl for off-field electro units and any other element type. When we compare this to Bennett, who can spam his skill on a 4-second cooldown on average, Sara doesn't come close to Bennett's battery potential for on-field pyro characters. However, as a general battery, even with Bennett spamming his skill every 4 seconds, Sara wins. Most people are probably using Bennett's skill on a more reasonable 6-second cooldown, which closes his gap even more with her being a better battery for off-field pyro characters than Bennett, which says a lot. As for Sara's weaknesses, she feels clunky to play at Constellation 0 and can make team rotations less fluid. This is subjective, and higher skill cap players likely won't have an issue with her playstyle. I'm still trying to nail down rotations myself. Sara's attack buff will never reach the attack transfer potential of Bennett. Her attack buff is on the short side and only applies to a single character at a time, and she has to perform a charge attack to collect energy particles from her skill. Sara does not replace Bennett, but I do feel like her upsides do negate the few downsides she has. Honestly, if Bennett wasn't in the game, most of these wouldn't even be weaknesses. While Sara's attack buff duration is short at 6 seconds, many characters have abilities that snapshot and negate this downside, as the buff will be applied for their entire duration of their ability. On top of this, Bennett's attack buff is lost the second you leave the AoE. When you have to chase down enemies with characters that do not snapshot, Sara can be a better attack buffing option. With my thoughts on this character out of the way, let's discuss builds. I will showcase damage from a few different artifact sets, but otherwise we'll keep this section simple. When selecting the build to run for Sara, you need to consider how important the following are for you: Sara's battery capability, Sara's attack buff, and Sara's burst damage. Battery capability favors high energy recharge, attack buff favors high base attack weapons, and burst damage favors attack percent and crit stats in general. As a general rule of thumb, I would aim to build Sara with around 200% energy recharge due to her 80 burst cost and battering capability, and to invest in crit rate and crit damage due to her high burst scaling. If you find that you can spam your burst without high energy recharge, and you're not as worried about Sara's battery potential, you can invest in attack percent over energy recharge for more burst damage. I personally recommend you go for the highest base attack weapons available that add to either Sara's battery capability or burst damage. For 4-star weapons, my top recommendations are Sacrificial Bow, Alley Hunter, or Blackcliff Warbow. At higher talent levels, you'll be losing around 100 attack transfer by running a weapon like Favonius over these other options. Personally, I prefer Sacrificial Bow for the energy recharge substat and ability to reset your elemental skill cooldown. At Constellation 2, the Sac Bow allows you to buff 2 characters without performing a charge shot, which is great in stressful situations. Alley Hunter and Blackcliff will provide more damage for Sara and are great options if you can maintain burst uptime. I always recommend to balance your build with weapon choice when you can, and the same advice is applicable here. Any 5-star bow is strong on Sara because of the high base attack. At talent level 10, the 5-star options will provide around 84 additional attack buff for your team. Personally, I think Skyward Harp and Elegy for the end are the strongest options, with Skyward Harp increasing all of Sara's damage and providing the highest base attack of all bows in the game, and Elegy giving energy recharge to Sara as well as further buffing your team. The other 5-star bows are mostly focused on normal and charge attack damage and are mostly stat 6 on Sara. Artifacts for Sara are even more flexible than her weapons. I personally think her 2 best sets are 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate or 4-piece Noblesse Oblige if you're not using this on another character. I only have a single emblem set built at the moment, which is on Raiden Shogun, but would like to farm a second set for Sara in the future. Mixed sets of 2-piece Thundering Fury with 2-piece Gladiator or Noblesse also work here. Emblem of Severed Fate is her best set if you're building 200% energy recharge, but Noblesse also makes sense when running Sara mostly as a team buffer. For artifact main stats, I'm guessing most players will want to run an energy recharge Sands, but if you have enough energy recharge to get your burst up, you can run an attack percent Sands for extra damage. Then prioritize electro damage in the goblet slot and crit rate or crit damage for the circlet. For artifact substats, I would prioritize crit rate and crit damage first, followed by attack percent and energy recharge depending on what you're lacking. I personally tested builds consisting of 4-piece Emblem, 4-piece Noblesse, and 2-piece Thundering Fury with 2-piece Gladiator. All of these builds use an energy recharge Sands and the Sacrificial Bow and maintained around 130% crit damage. The damage potential difference between these sets is not huge. The single target damage over 20 seconds was actually highest for 2-piece Gladiator with 2-piece Thundering Fury, while Emblem gives the highest burst damage. Against multiple targets, the Emblem set is the clear winner because her burst can hit multiple enemies, but does not win out by a huge margin. To close the video out, let's discuss teams that Sara slots into well. C6 Sara is designed to be run with Electro, DPS, or burst supports. Of these, Kaching, Raiden Shogun, and Beidou are all very good choices. In some ways, Sara feels like an indirect buff for Electro Keqing. While Keqing doesn't really benefit much from Sara's battery potential, her attack buff is still very welcome, and at C6 she will outperform Bennett in most circumstances. Raiden and Beto are both primarily burst supports that deal most of their damage in their burst window. Unfortunately, neither of their burst snapshots, so you can lose the buff during their burst duration. That said, Raiden's initial burst damage is massive, and the duration is short enough to not be too negatively impacted. As discussed, Sara has a similar electro
So, yeah, I don't know.
If it's made with real fruits, it's Del Monte juice drinks. Real goodness. From real fruits to feel real good. Del Monte, real fruit goodness to feel good.
It's Sevi. Welcome to my guide on Kaya. Despite being a free starter character and facing tough competition in the roster of many other strong cryo characters, Kaya has remained a reliable and solid 4-star unit. So in this video, I'll discuss Kaya's kit, how to best build his artifacts and weapons, and what teams he works well in to help you unlock his valuable free-to-play potential. Let's get started.
Kaya, Knight of Favonius. Please allow me to join you on your journey.
Kaya is a cryo unit that mainly functions as an off-field quick swap burst DPS, and his presence as a cryo applicator and battery is valuable for cryo-based teams. Moreover, there are also teams where Kaya can be played as an on-field carry too. However, it's generally the case that your team might have a better on-field unit, which makes Kaya more often delegated to an off-fielder role. Kaya has a very simple yet useful kit. Let's go through his talents to better understand his capabilities. Kaya's normal attacks are a 5-hit sequence. The 5th hit makes him teleport behind the enemy before dealing a blow, but this can be blocked by large enemies, shielded might turtles, and the like. Kaya's normal and charged attack multipliers are actually relatively high and can be optimized for damage by using certain attack strings. In general, 2 normals, then a charged attack is a top recommended optimal combo, but there are other factors to consider. With this, he can act as an on-field damage dealer, whether through dealing physical damage or with a teammate's elemental infusion. If you're interested in building him as a physical DPS, I'll have more on that later. But for now, let's continue with his cryo abilities, which I consider to be his more valuable aspects and strengths to lean towards. Kaya's skill creates a blast of cryo in front of him, which deals cryo damage, applies cryo, and generates 2 or 3 cryo particles on hit. All in all, it's a very straightforward ability. Some notable things is that it has a stronger than average cryo gauge, making it good for shield breaking. If you also want to create an infinite ice bridge, Kaya's skill is perfect for that. And it has a short cooldown of 6 seconds, which means potentially more frequent cryo application and particle generation, making Kaya a pretty great cryo battery too. In relation, Kaya's first Ascension passive allows his skill to regenerate HP equal to 15% attack with every enemy hit. The more enemies hit, the more he regenerates. This is a relatively minor but still welcome way of granting Kaya a self-sustaining survival utility. Then his 4th Ascension passive lets his skill generate up to 2 additional cryo particles when it freezes or hits frozen enemies. This adds more battery utility for Kaya, whether for his personal energy needs or batterying teammates. Kaya's skill may be simple, but its combination of cryo application, battery, and survival utility makes it a good skill.
You're in for a little shock.
Finally, Kaya's burst generates 3 icicles that revolve around your active character. This will last only for 8 seconds max unless you have C2. These icicles are Kaya's main source of damage in cryo application. A few things to note about it are that 1. An icicle deals AoE damage upon hitting an enemy. So if enemies are grouped closely enough, it's possible for 1 icicle to hit 2 or more enemies, making them more potent against mobs. 2. The burst snapshots, which means that it takes whatever Kaya's current stats are upon casting as the basis of computing its damage. If his stats change after the burst cast, the icicle's damage computation will not be affected. So if you want Kaya's burst to do as much damage as possible, ensure that all the relevant buffs are active before you cast his burst. 3, the icicles have standard ICD, so cryo can only be applied every 3 hits or 2.5 seconds on a single
Meow,
enemy.
meow, meow.
Understanding the burst ICD is more relevant for melt reactions, but isn't generally a concern in freeze or superconduct reactions. 4, each icicle has a damage cooldown. If an icicle hits an enemy, it'll take about a second for it to be able to hit and deal damage again. This is very likely not something to worry about unless you're incredibly specific about optimizing damage. Another point about maximizing his energy particles is that when Kaya casts his burst, the energy is only depleted during the animation's ending. In some cases, he is still able to catch his own particles if you do his skills and burst. However, it's also possible you might miss a chance to catch his particles before his energy is consumed, thereby wasting the particles. So if you want to ensure you're properly funneling Kaya's skill particles to him, use his burst first to allow the energy to drain fully, then use his skill and catch the particles. For his last talent, Kaya's Exploration passive reduces stamina consumption, which can be useful either for traversal or dashing in combat. When leveling talents, prioritize Kaya's burst, then skill. Then you can level up his normal attacks if you use them frequently, or choose to ignore them completely. Now onto his constellations. As one of the starter characters, the most reliable way to increase his cons is by purchasing them at Paimon's Bargains shop. Otherwise, there's a small chance to get cons in the standard banner. Let's see what they add to his kit. C1 increases the crit rate of his normal and charged attacks by 15% if Kaya hits enemies affected by a cryo aura. This includes frozen enemies. If Kaya is assuming an off-field role, C1 won't really see that much use, but if he's attacking on-field, you can get more mileage out of it. C2 is one of Kaya's best constellations, as it allows you to extend his burst duration up to a maximum of 15 seconds by killing enemies while it's active. This means more damage and higher application over time. Note as well that Kaya does not have to be on-field, nor does he have to deal the killing blow. So long as it's active and your team kills enemies, the extension activates. However, this can be situationally a very useful or entirely useless constellation. It's useful if you're facing a lot of enemies to kill, but useless if you're up against a single boss. C3 increases his skill level by 3. C4 gives Kaya the ability to generate a cryo shield if his health falls below 20%. This is a minor emergency measure that might have some use every now and then. Unfortunately, it has a very long cooldown of 60 seconds, and if an enemy hit one-shots him, the shield will not prevent his death. Also, the shield isn't transferable to other characters, but Kaya will retain it even if he swaps out and in. C5 increases his burst level by 3, and lastly, C6 makes Kaya's burst generate 1 more icicle and 15 energy upon casting. This is an amazing final constellation, as it essentially improves his damage potential, cryo application, and lowers his ER needs, allowing him to focus on other stats. To summarize, C2 is the best early constellation to target, and for me, it's worth spending the star glitter to guarantee it. From there on, you can keep on buying his cons as a long-term project, or just hope you get lucky on your standard banner wishes. Next, let's get into building Kaya, starting with his artifact stats and sets. Kaya has some differences with his builds depending on his playstyle, so I'll categorize them accordingly. Starting with his freeze build, aim for an attack stance, cryo damage goblet, and a crit circlet that helps you achieve a good crit ratio. Then look for the following substats and ER target. But Kaya's circlet and substat preference can vary depending on his artifact set, because with a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer set, which is his best in slot for freeze teams, he virtually gains a 40% crit rate boost against frozen enemies. As such, you want to focus on crit damage stats for his circlet and substats. His other rival sets for freeze teams, or as a general off-field cryo unit, are the 4-piece Noblesse if you want Kaya to give an attack buff to other teammates to boost DPS. Just note that multiple Noblesse effects don't stack, so ideally, Kaya will be the only one using it in the team if ever. The 4-piece emblem is also viable if you need the extra ER, but because Kaya has lower ER requirements in freeze teams, this set on him will usually output very similar damage as the 2-piece combos of the following sets. At least with 2-piece combos, it's easier to get better substat pieces. Next is his reverse melt build. Look for an EM or attack stance, a cryo damage goblet, a crit circlet, and the following substats and ER target. His full set options are the Gilded Dreams for the EM and attack buffs, Lava Walker for boosting damage against pyro-affected enemies, and Emblem for more ER and burst damage bonus. The 4-piece Noblesse is still applicable for buffing your team. However, 2-piece combos are still very competitive against 4-piece sets, as long as you can get better substats on your pieces. Finally, we have a physical focused build. Look for an attack stance, physical damage goblet, crit circlet, and the following substats. As for his ER needs, while this build aims to boost his physical damage, you might think of just ignoring his burst uptime. However, we shouldn't forget that his burst can still be a significant source of damage even with his physical build. As such, I would still recommend getting enough ER to let him have reliable burst uptime. For his sets, you can go for a 4-piece Pale Flame set, which offers the highest damage potential. A lower potential set is the 4-piece Gladiator's Finale, which you can passively get, but note that it only boosts normal attack damage. Even then, 2-piece combos of physical damage and attack sets can be competitive with better substats. Other less recommended options can be the Retracing Bolide if he's used with a shielder, but that's much more inefficient to farm, or the Shimenawa set, but its energy drain interferes with burst consistency, so I'd still steer away from it.
I don't think a lot of people are ready for this. This is the Huawei Pura 80 Ultra, ang camera na may konting cellphone. This is simply the biggest jump in terms of camera technology in recent years. Check that camera out. It's huge, massive. This is simply the biggest forward symbol design from a Huawei Pura phone. Well, syempre naman, 1-inch 50MP sensor po to. So big that it allows so much light into the camera, giving you better details, better low light performance.
Now let's list down his weapon recommendations for different investment levels and builds. Since there are a lot of options, I'll flash a list on screen that you can pause to read, and I'll just summarize and give special mentions where applicable. There are loads of free-to-play swords for Kaya with their situationally useful stats or passives. For the best general free-to-play option, the Ishin is an amazing all-around sword for any of his playstyles that can even compete with 4-star gacha choices. Also, note that some weapons, particularly the Iron Sting or Prototype Rancor, are only recommended for specific build playstyles. Kaya also has various gacha options. EM weapons or Lion's Roar are recommended for a melt playstyle, Favonia's sword addresses all of Kaya's ER needs while making him a better battery, and the black sword is available for battle pass spenders. But again, the Ishin sword is free and competitive if you don't have these. If you want to spoil your Kaya, he also has a lot of 5-star sword options. The crit and attack weapons are focused on outputting high personal damage. Niche options are the Freedom Sworn for its EM substat and team buff passive, or the Aquila Favonia for a physical build. Finally, let's go through his team comps. Starting players will tend to put Kaya in whatever team, and for the most part, his off-field burst roll or physical attacks will get you through the overworld and story content. But if you're looking to maximize Kaya's team potential, here are the main templates he'll be very cool in. For a freeze team, this needs a Hydro unit and often another Cryo unit for more application, damage, or support capabilities. In this regard, there are a lot of options to choose from in our Hydro and Cryo rosters, each with their particular pros or cons. Then, comping an Animo unit is also highly advised, as they can reduce the enemy's resistance with a VV set and/or group enemies for better crowd control. In a freeze team, Kaya functions as a solid Cryo DPS who can do most of his job off-field thanks to his burst. If you do have Chongyun, he can infuse Kaya's normal and charged attacks so you can take more advantage of his high
No monopyro.
attack multipliers. More so, he's a great battery thanks to his quick skill cooldown and particle generating passive.
I charge
so
a higher
he helps
rate to
a
meet
lot if your
outside the
team has
office.
energy hungry
No,
units.
no, no.
Freeze teams at their core are very reputable in the meta for dealing really good damage while also crowd controlling enemies. How strong your freeze team's potential is will depend on the available characters you have and the investment you're willing to put in. In any case, Kaya, despite being a starter character, is a very dependable and great pick in freeze teams. Although Cryo does not react with Dendro, using Freeze and Bloom-based teams is a great form of crowd control nonetheless. Dubbed as Fridge, these teams have a Dendro, Hydro, and Cryo unit at its core. Kaya is a good Cryo option for these teams with his off-field burst. This freezing mechanic can even be applied for Bloom's sub-reactions. Adding an Electro trigger like Kuki or Raiden that can reliably trigger Hyper Blooms in a Fridge team will result in what's dubbed as a Hyper Fridge team. Or adding a Pyro trigger like Toma can do Raidens instead, nicknamed Open, for the additional freeze and remote reaction that will take place. If you stick with only cryo and or animal units, you'll end up with a mono cryo team. You of course lose the crowd controlling the freeze and won't be able to fully maximize Blizzard Strayer's effect. This is also generally recommended to be played with Shenhe, who buffs your entire team's cryo damage. Next is Kaya in melt teams. This mostly covers reverse melt teams, which is applying cryo on pyro. But I'll briefly mention forward melting as well, which is applying pyro on cryo. Kaya in reverse melt teams mainly involve having units that consistently apply pyro for Kaya's cryo abilities to trigger reverse melt on. There are a few templates that allow for this. First is a traditional Bennett and Xiangling combo. Xiangling deals a lot of pyro damage, but more importantly, is able to apply pyro fast enough for Kaya's icicles, while Bennett's buff can be snapshotted by both of them. The fourth slot can be filled in by another cryo unit that can also trigger reverse melts off-field. The most popular option is Rosaria for a 4-star team. Chongyin is also another 4-star alternative, or their Shenhe as a 5-star option. The second variant is a burn melt team, wherein the burning ore is maintained instead of using Xiangling. However, this is generally recommended with Nagita thanks to her skills mechanics to reapply dendro fast enough off-field. Bennett is still the top recommendation as a pyro applicator. You'll want to frequently use his skill and reapply pyro. If Bennett is C6, then that's more helpful, as any melee character can now apply pyro. Another option for sustained pyro is to use Bennett and an animal unit that can apply pyro. One example is the Sunfire combo of Bennett and Jean, which rapidly spills pyro onto the enemy so that Kaya and another cryo can reverse melt. However, if you have 2 cryo units on the team to reverse melt, it can be harder to maintain a pyro aura or make rotations where you can maximize the EV's cryo resistance shred uptime. On the other hand, Kaya can be used to help enable a pyro unit to trigger forward melts instead. However, due to how forward melt gauges work, this is harder to execute. And since one cryo applicator is generally not enough for consistent forward melts, it's likely necessary to put in another cryo unit or an animo with an infusion ability. Then, if you combine Hydro and Cryo in a melt team, your Pyro unit can trigger a combination of melt or vaporize on frozen or Hydro-affected enemies. Just note that this doesn't work with Pyro units that do blunt damage, since they will shatter frozen enemies instead of melting, or if the enemy cannot be frozen like most bosses. Finally, let's talk about Kaya in physical teams. Kaya's Cryo element is convenient for physical teams, as you just need an Electro to work with Kaya and trigger Superconduct, which lowers the enemy's physical resistance. There are many options for that with their own pros and cons, and you generally want an off-field Electro to work alongside Kaya's on-field playstyle. Once you have that Superconduct core, there are 2 flex slots. There are many possible variations here, so you'll generally fill these slots with combinations of buffers, healers, shielders, and off-field DPSs, depending on what you have. The important thing is that they won't interrupt with Superconduct and Kaya's physical damage. Mika is also an upcoming physical buffer, and he should be a nice fit to boost Kaya's damage. Alternatively, Kaya doesn't have to be the main on-field damage dealer, as he can be the one helping trigger Superconduct while mostly being an off-field support and damage dealer. And that's going to be it for this Kaya guide. I personally really enjoy playing Kaya for his simple yet effective kit. So let me know in the comments if you've also come to appreciate one of our OG husbandos, or if you're still getting more acquainted with what he brings to the table. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Take care!
Following you on your journey might just be the most fun I've had in my whole life. I hope it stays that way.
Who always spelled it correctly? What the frick?
There's 7 different ones to choose from, but the game wasn't always like this. For 2 years, this one symbol taunted everyone during their loading screens. But with the release of Sumeru came the final element Dendro and a guaranteed Dendro character, Kale. Since we've already covered the starter characters and have begun the guaranteed characters, Today, we are going to play Genshin only using Kale. But before we get into the rules and anime opening, I would like to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Opera GX. It's their third time here, and for good reason, because I use it all the time. One of the main features of Opera GX is their mods. You can go to the store and download hundreds of mods that come with themes, keyboard sounds, wallpapers, browser sounds, and customize them to your heart's desire. Or you can make your own. But my personal favorite feature in Opera is the video pop-out. This might be my second favorite feature in anything ever, besides gambling. I use this basically anytime I'm gaming, except for those lean-in moments. I gotta be serious when I'm fighting Senora without healing. Normally when I play games by myself, I look like an idiot because I'm just sitting there with my mouth open, brain dead. But with the video pop-out, I can enjoy watching something while playing my favorite games, and when I die, it's my fault, not Bluey's. If you're interested in Opera and are worried about losing all your settings and bookmarks and all that jumbo, well, don't worry, you goober. Just go over to this little gear icon, scroll down to synchronization, and click on import bookmarks and settings. Select your old browser, and you'll never have to worry about losing your bad time simulator bookmark anymore. Download Opera GX using my link in the description. Thanks again, Opera, for sponsoring the video. Now let's get back to the rules and anime opening. Here are the rules. We can only use Kale, and all bows are allowed, including the 5 stars. Now let's see if we can beat Genshin Impact only using Kale.
Nakakainis.
Anniversary and pulling on a banner that has her. Which one do you think I did?
Outlanders, your journey ends here.
No, I'm just joking. Ooh, bow character, Kale. It's like poetry. It rhymes. Thankfully, we received our Kale from the summons and we could finally start this challenge. 3 months since this account's creation. To begin, we go to the first domain. OMG High.
Hold on guys, I'm gonna do something.
Let's roll.
Meow. Meow meow.
This is what we have been working for.
Meow meow.
Rush B.
Okay. Rush me.
Let's go, let's go.
Alright. Rolf.
Decoys out.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm throwing smoke. I'm planting the bomb. Bomb has been planted.
狗洞有一个狗洞那个打掉了吗？
Meow meow. I'm gonna be MVP. Yeah. Oh man, I'm not MVP. Freak.
继续20滴。
Meow meow.
我有被闪的，
Go me.
And down we go. Let's throw the flashback.
Meow meow.
Decoy. Grenade out. Smoke. Activating the bomb.
One upper tunnel. Upper tunnel.
Looking back, it's kinda crazy to see that the first elemental reaction they encourage you to create was one that wasn't available in the first 2 years of this game's life. Aside from that fun fact, our goal here is to climb and glide, since we can't activate the pyro pillar. This took much longer than it should have, to be honest, and I won't mention Kale's height too often since it's basically the same as Barbara's. Just know that they share the same pain. But thanks to Amber's emotional support, we were able to climb on top of the domain and glide over.
Meow meow. Meow meow. Go beer.
Throw the decoy.
Oh me, what are you doing?
Throwing bomb. I'm throwing a grenade. Fire. Smoke.
Nice. Planting for long.
Bomb has been planted.
Naku naman, nawala pa.
Terrorists win. I fear no man.
这是哪里人啊？
Can you speak English? Hello? Nico Nico
看出来了，中国人。
Nico 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 你好喵喵喵
你是刚进化吗？
你好，喵喵喵。
This is our fight. Throwing a decoy. Grenade.
一起逆三。Tulong to. What are you doing, Blue? Get out of my face. 3A, all A, all A, all A.
逼空了，打 B 打 B 逼空了，去暗包哥，逼空了。Rush B 逼空啊！
Wala, wala nung time.
Planting. Bomb has been planted. I'm throwing a grenade. Flashbang. Terrorists win.
Meow meow.
Cannot be killed.
Meow meow. Meow meow.
We will make them regret the day.
I love suppressed weapons,
Smoke.
even in airsoft.
Throwing a flashbang.
Meow meow.
Grenade. Decoy.
第二进人了，第二进人了，第二进人了。
Yeah.
Counter-terrorists win.
Oh well. Chima. Chima.
Come on, let's go. Smoke. I'm throwing smoke. Throwing bomb. Decoy out.
Behind.
Planted.
No.
Bomb has been planted.
1B. 1B. 2.
杀地两个，杀地两个，
2 CT.
脚下脚下。 全的给我解释一下，这场比赛有几个人类啊？ Purple, where are from?
Philippines.
Let's go. Whoa. Decoy. Smoke. Throwing bomb. Grenade out. Throwing fire.
Die. Get out of my face, man. You're ruining my shot.
I'm planting the bomb.
Naku naman. Naku naman.
We will dance on your graves. We must move. Decoys out.
Flash A.
Meow, meow. Naku naman. Go, go, go. Naku naman, what the freak?
打 B。移速啊，你的速度太慢了，别的会防了。狗洞。Others are your friends?
Let's go.
No, go away. Didn't you see that I was shooting behind you? Car.
B 攻。
Naku naman. GG.
How are you? Purple.
Huh?
How old are you?
$32.
We must work together.
Really?
I'm a 32-year-old man.
Decoy.
With a voice changer. Meow meow meow. Oh,
摸逼摸逼，快点过来，来个帮我拉枪去，快，冲！那 CF 校长啊哥，他妈的跳着打。Fresh A 抢 A 大，好吧。
Move it. I'm throwing a flashback. Decoy is out. I'm throwing smoke.
"把包丢出来给我。
Throwing fire.
缺枪的说一声啊，我可以发枪的。
Let's go, my brother.
GG.
Throwing a decoy.
Nami. Nami.
wish they were never born.
Libre niña me.
打的了，打的了。
Okay. Meow meow. GG.
Fire in the hole. Throwing fire.
GG.
Let's move out. Grenade out. Incendiary out. Deploying decoy.
Coba.
These fellas are gonna decoys out this morning. Deploying flashbang. Grenade out. Incendiary.
GG talaga. Are you blinded?
能发把大狙给我吗？发把大狙给我，发大狙有机会。
Play lads. We're on. Incendiary out. Throwing grenade. Decoy.
B.
Throwing fire. Throwing smoke.
Ay, nako.
Terrorists win. Move it, move it.
Okay, 18. Oh, nice.
Counter-terrorists win. We'll get stuck right into them. Let's go.
Window. Nice. 1B. One more. Long doors. Long doors.
Counter-terrorists win. You're champion. Time to earn our stories. Laying down smoke. Incendiary.
Bomb drop.
Grenade out.
Last one is here.
Decoys out.
Yes.
Win. That's how we roll. Go, go.
I drop Galil if you want. Behind you.
Incendiary.
Bomb is here.
Throwing grenade. Deploying decoy.
Oh wow!
B B B B B B B B。大箱大箱大箱。拆！
Diffusing. Counter-terrorists win. Good stuff. Come on, chug. Decoys out. Throwing a grenade. Flashbang. Throwing smoke. Incendiary.
Nice.
Laying down smoke. Grenade out. Throwing fire. Decoys out.
Bomb going B.
中门。B。
Incendiary out.
Hello. Freak. Yeah.
Counter-terrorists win. You're right on.
Meow meow. Sign the run or die.
Throwing fire. Deploying decoy. Fire in the hole.
中门中门，B B 进了 B B B B， 我都 B 按到B。A
Meow meow.
OK
Bye
OK。
bye. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Nice work.
Okay, YouTube. I'm gonna go now. Bye bye. I enjoyed streaming today. Okay. Bye bye.